This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
For me, art is an agent of change.
Anything that highlights life.
They know it's an art form when it has a story, when it speaks to them.
Art is an expression of the soul. Pinapakita nito kung anong kaya ng tao.
The product of the reaction to something you love.
And passion.
And anything in between.
It's the highest form of language.
So it's got to be honest.
A vehicle for expressing your thoughts, your emotions.
That when we see it, we can't keep it, we need to share it.
It's not shared by 2 or more people, then it's just the work of a crazy person.
For me, art is important because
It makes you think.
I like the idea of creating something out of nothing.
think of how you can improve your own life, the lives of others.
To have something in the world that exists that affects people.
It is what allows us to feel.
Without it, we're nothing more than robots, just rocks.
If you don't have art, you merely exist. Art draws out the humanity. So art elevates existence into something else. Does that make sense?
We are unable to inspire and to move people into action.
It's your way of sharing and giving back to the people.
Without art, I think life would be boring.
Because everyone has to have some sense of creativity in their life.
It's not beautiful without art.
If you have a point of view,
You are an artist.
An artist is someone who sees things that no one else sees.
with the mindset of moving the society forward.
Anyone can be an artist as long as you are honest.
Courageous.
Art makes you just that much more sensitive to things around you.
To allow growth in our lives.
A reflection of the beliefs and the desires.
It pushes me to improve every day.
It makes me appreciate all the little things.
Iba yung tingin mo sa mundo eh.
Art is everything.
Hindi ako mabubuhay kung walang arte.
Actor and director.
Actress.
I'm an actor, singer.
Actor.
It's an actress and a singer.
Actor, playwright.
Theater actor.
An actress. An actress.
Actor.
I'm a human being.
Maarte ako.
Maarte ako.
Maarte ako.
Maarte ako. Maarte ako.
Maarte ako. Maarte ka.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Philippines Uncut. I'm your host, Buddy Kunanan. Now, on this show, we talk about everything under the sun. And tonight, we're going to be talking about filmmaking in the Philippines. And this is a monster topic. And we're going to try to cover as much ground as possible. And joining us tonight to talk about this topic is a good friend of mine from many years ago, Santiago Santi Larrauri, noted director, producer, actor, and novelist, and man about town.
Yeah.
Good evening, Santi, and
Good evening.
welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yeah.
You know,
Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for having me here.
Pleasure. I mean, in fact, I've always wanted to have you on the show, and the problem is, our schedules don't seem to match.
Yeah.
But this is a very special time tonight, folks, because I tell you, Santi is a good friend of mine from a long time ago, and it may be, what is it, Santi, 30 years since I last saw you?
Yeah.
And until today, in the studio, when you walked in, and it's like, whoosh.
That's probably the only way we communicate through Facebook. But yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, at least 3 decades, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
School days.
Yeah, school days, absolutely. And it's so nice to have you because you have such an interesting story, which will be a run-up to our discussion on filmmaking and a lot of the exciting movies that you are producing, directing, and acting in.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you first. Describe yourself. Who is Santiago Santi Larrauri?
Well, on the front, I would be a writer, director, actor, novelist, name it. But I'm actually an artist more than anything else. What I feel on that particular day, I love writing. Writing has been my passion. everybody says, you know, what's the most important facet in the movie industry or cinema? I would say it's the writer, because that's where the idea is created. That's where the concept is born. And the writer, if he knows how to direct and he knows how to act and he knows that, he writes it for the actor, he writes it for the director, he writes it for the cameraman, because he's done a bit of everything. I just think it makes you more well-rounded to know the entire industry, the whole gamut of the industry.
Yeah. Now, Santi, what got you into this game? Because knowing you from 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago,
Yeah.
I mean, I never knew that you had this side of you, that
Yeah.
you had this really deep, intense artistic side of you. What got you into filmmaking?
I started at the age of 14. I was in a junior martial arts competition in Den Rizal Coliseum. And in between rounds, there was this Chinese agent that was literally bugging me while I was in between rounds, telling me, I need martial art, I need white guy who can do kicks, I need white guy, I need white guy. And my coach was telling him, get out of here, later, talk to us after. So yeah, eventually he gave me his number, I forgot his name. Gave me his number, we did an audition, doing jumping kicks and everything, no acting involved, it was just jumping in the air, kicking and knocking people out. That particular project did not push through. But he had projects after. And after that, that same guy introduced me to Tito Sirio Santiago, who used me in several of his projects. And
Martial arts projects.
Martial arts projects. Towards the end, it was even a non-martial arts one, when I could finally act. he would put me in the non-martial arts one. And yeah, I have so many people to thank. Lorna Gordon, Tita Julie Isla, all these guys that just put me in every international project that came in. They just threw me in there. I know a white guy from the Philippines that can act. You don't need to bring him from abroad.
Okay, white guy in the Philippines. I understand they used to call you Puting Pinoy.
Yeah,
are
I still do.
Are you Filipino?
Yeah, born and raised. Taga dito ako. Dito ako pinanak. Dito naman ako lumaki. Yeah.
But your background, your ancestry is obviously your European Spanish.
Spanish Basque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you live here all your life, you matriculated here, and
Yeah.
really in your heart, you are Filipino.
I'm Filipino.
Beautiful.
Even when I lived abroad, everybody was asking me, so what are you? I'm Filipino. No, seriously, what are you? And I no, I'm Filipino. And they're like, and the worst thing is the Filipino, hindi ka Pinoy. Ito, ano pala? taga Manila ako. Diyan ako pinanak. Diyan ako lumaki. Di ba? Then they were like, oh my God, you know.
Now, I mean, and so the roles you played, at first, obviously, were all, you know, those stereotypical, like, white guy roles. They need the white guy or a Caucasian-looking guy to fit the role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Initially, it was anything martial arts related.
Yeah.
There was a time in the late 80s, mid 80s, all the way till mid 90s, where it was all martial arts movies, and that's what I was there. And the thing is, if you're not the lead, you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
Because it's usually the lead fights everybody. It's him against the world, right?
Yes.
Or her against the world. And yeah, they always needed the villain. Ta-da!
And if it's an Asian production, usually it's the local, you know, it's the Asian against the big bad white guy.
Exactly.
Or the white guy that they bring.
I was
to the
the big bad
Philippines.
white guy.
How do you feel playing contravida roles?
Much more interesting. There's a lot more depth to it for me, in my opinion. Lead roles normally have only one fact. They can only be good.
Yeah.
I can be a villain with a heart.
True.
I can be a villain with a character. I can be a villain who's really nice one moment and a devil the next moment. So it becomes very interesting. I didn't mind. I wouldn't mind playing some good guy roles once in a while.
How many projects have you been in? How many roles have you been in?
160,
Oh
170.
my gosh! Wow.
That's including extras, you know, starting out. You know, when you start out in the industry, especially in the international film industry in the Philippines, which was really big in the 80s and the 90s, it sort of tapered off towards 97 onwards. Yeah, you start out as extra, and then when they realize, oh, he can act, we're going to use you as then they give you a small bit part with one line. Oh, he did well in that, and slowly you progress. Next thing you know, you're doing the roles.
When did you know that you could act? Because, you know, coming from martial arts background and martial arts movie making, no? I mean, you know, we've seen all the Bruce Lee movies, and I'm really, it's really not much acting there. No? I mean, they couldn't act really.
No, they couldn't.
But they could kick, they could punch, they could do all these things. When did you know that you could act? When did you realize it?
I think it was Tito Sirio Santiago that pulled me on the side and goes, you know, you can act. And I'm like, I can? Because he saw some of my reactions during the fight scenes and, you know, the dialogue before the fight scene when I would deliver it. And he goes, just konting training lang yan, Santi, konting training. And he's the one that actually helped me out. He would guide me. There was no formal classes during my time. It was all, okay, we'll guide you, you know, tell you. And then he'll make me talk to a friend of his who would be my acting coach. And slowly you learn. Then you just take on more challenging roles, and next thing you know, your repertoire expands.
Yeah, because, you know, in high school, and we both went to Ateneo High School, no? You know, there was Dulaang Sibol.
Yeah.
In grade school, there was the Ateneo Children's Theater, which I don't recall you ever being part of those outfits, no?
No. Kind of avoided. My father would have loved it. You know, my father was not a fan of my career.
Yeah.
Not a fan of my career at all. He's the reason I actually avoided local. I was given opportunities to join Baguettes, of all things. You know,
Really?
yeah.
The infamous, I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Agamulak and
was
John Hernandez. And
Exactly. I said no because my father would have killed me.
Okay.
And I was given a lot of local opportunities during that time that I didn't take because my father was like, he really didn't like the local industry.
Why not?
So, he didn't like the quality during that time. He really just didn't like the quality. This is before Muro Ami came out. You know, that was for my father. That was the first good Filipino film that came out. You know.
Yes, yes.
And yeah, it grew from there when he started to realize that, you know, hey, they're making better and better films. Then he said, okay, try a few. He didn't really like the ones I made, but
Which were the ones you made?
Walang Kasukat sa Tapang. They were actually local movies, but with foreign backing. So it wasn't really much of a difference. Except instead of shooting it in Hong Kong, or Japan, or Korea, I was shooting it in the Philippines. But yeah, it was still a foreign film.
Yeah. And I can understand how your old man felt
Yeah.
because, you know, occasionally, especially back then, no,
Yeah.
there would be beautiful Filipino movies. No? But for the most part, they were really, you know, mass-produced movies catering to the mass
I knew that.
audience.
I knew there was good films coming
Yeah.
out. I knew that. I saw it. It's just convincing my father that they existed.
Yeah.
I actually brought back, you know, VHS tapes for him to show him to them. Dad, look at this ones. And he was like,
Do you ever do any leading man roles? You know, that kind of
mostly support villain roles.
So no matinee idol.
No.
No. That kind of thing.
No, I was
Romantic
usually the villain.
stuff.
9 out of 10 times I was the villain. The lead roles I had were in commercials.
Which is so strange because you see, I mean, you look like a very affable, nice guy. I mean, and then for you to play all these villain roles.
Yeah, well, I had to play the villain roles because, like I said, they would usually choose the lead actor, and everybody else was support, you know. And if it was a martial arts movie, I'm the guy fighting the lead.
Okay, let's talk about how you segued to being behind the camera. How did that happen?
Again,
because it's a completely different discipline, right?
Yeah, it is.
Being an actor and being behind the scenes.
My first behind-the-scene experience would have been writing. Again, Tito Sirio Santiago, he would toss me a script and tell me, what do you think of this? And I would read it and I would make some changes. And there were some scripts he tossed my way and I was like, oh my God, where did you get this? You know, he goes, can you do better? And I told him, well, yeah, of course. And he goes, and that's how it started. He goes, okay, I challenge you. Write me a script. And that was it.
Yeah. And directing?
Directing came actually, again, from Tito Sirio Santiago. He gave me the chance behind the camera, just teaching me. He started me with every department. He put me in electrical, he put me in makeup, he put me in utility, everything.
You were in makeup?
Yeah, well, assisting, you know, but you have to learn it. I mean, if you're going to be a director, or especially a producer in the future, you need to know how each and every department runs so that you know how much each one can spend.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, and that was his way of teaching, but I didn't know. Of course, for me, I was like, oh my God.
How many years have you been in the industry, Santi? Total?
84.
Since 84?
Yeah.
So easily you're talking about over 30 years you've been in this business.
Maybe 6, 7 years off when I left for Europe.
Yeah. And it's amazing because your background is you have exposure, as you mentioned, in all these other roles in the film industry, in the operations of making a film. You know? You said you were in makeup, assisting, you were in front of the camera, you were behind the camera, assistant to this, assistant to that. And what do you think, I mean, how has that helped you as an artist?
It really helps. It makes you understand what the people you're working with are doing. I mean, there are times I actually see the lighting is wrong, and I would correct them. Mali yata yan, boss. And then they're like, oh, nga, no? Yung barn door nyo, medyo nakasarado yata. Then they'll open it up, you know, things like that. It really helps, and it also helps you understand their work. You know, you can't come up with unrealistic expectations. Look, I want the lighting set up in 30 minutes. Yeah, right. It's not gonna happen. You know, especially if it's a complex scene. Because you know, you've been there.
Yeah. This is not something that most actors go through, no? I mean, going through the ropes and really, you know, all the rungs.
No. But the ones that do, you can see they excel.
Oh, okay.
They naturally excel.
Locally,
because they understand.
I mean, who are the ones that you look up to? The actors that you think are, would you say, are world-class and that you say, hey, Hats off to this
Now
gent.
there's so many. Robin Padilla is one of them. Really, I like the way he acts. Tirso Cruz, Nora Nor, the original ones.
Of course,
they never
of
got
course.
in the international acclaim that they should have gotten much earlier than they actually did, because they can really act. There's so many. I mean, I would be hard pressed to even name 20 at this point.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
there's
Just
quite a few.
pure artists, really, no?
Yeah, and all of them have one thing in common. They understand the industry in itself, the cameraman's job, the casting director's job. So they understand it from a wider concept. I've seen actors, as a director, I know a good actor right away when the minute he asks me, what's your lens? What lens are you using? The minute they ask questions that you realize he wants to know how big the lens is, how wide, so how big his expressions need to be, how small they have to be, how compact his acting has to be.
Yeah, I guess that really helps them because film is it's a group effort, it's a team effort, no. And if you're and obviously you're in front of the camera, but if you know how everything works, and if you know how the pieces fit together, then it just comes out. It makes up your product so much better.
It does.
Yeah. Santi, we have to pause for a break, but before we go, we're going to treat the audience to some of your cinematic experiences. So guys, watch a clip of Santiago Santi Larrauri in action.
That's cool. The hell? Huh?
I'm gonna fucking cut your heart out! If you don't stop it, he's going to.
A human being.
Maarte ako.
Maarte ako.
Maarte ako.
Maarte ako. Maarte ako. Maarte ako. Maarte ako.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Philippines Uncut. I'm your host, Buddy Kunanan. Now, on this show, we talk about everything under the sun. And tonight, we're going to be talking about filmmaking in the Philippines. And this is a monster topic. And we're going to try to cover as much ground as possible. And joining us tonight to talk about this topic is a good friend of mine from many years ago, Santiago Santi Larrauri. noted director, producer, actor, and novelist,
Yeah.
and man about town.
Yeah.
Good evening, Santi, and
Good evening.
welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Makes you think.
I like the idea of creating something out of nothing.
Think of how you can improve your own life, the lives of others.
To have something in the world that exists that affects people.
It is what allows us to feel.
Without it, we're nothing more than robots, just rocks.
If you don't have art, you merely exist. Art draws out the humanity. So art elevates existence into something else. Does that make sense?
We are unable to inspire and to move people into action.
It's your way of sharing and giving back to the people.
Without art, I think life would be boring.
Because everyone has to have some sense of creativity in their life.
It's not beautiful without art.
If you have a point of view, you are an artist.
An artist is someone who sees things that no one else sees.
With the mindset of moving the society forward.
Anyone can be an artist as long as you are honest.
Courageous.
Art makes you just that much more sensitive to things around you.
To allow growth in our lives.
A reflection of the beliefs and the desires.
It pushes me to improve every day.
It makes me appreciate all the little things.
Iba yung tingin mo sa mundo eh.
Art is everything.
Hindi ako mabubuhay kung walang arte.
I'm an actor and director.
Actress.
I'm an actor, singer.
Actor.
It's an actress and a singer.
Actor, playwright.
Theater actor.
An actress. For me, art is an agent of change.
Anything that highlights life.
They know it's an art form when it has a story, when it speaks to them.
Art is an expression of the soul. Pinapakita nito kung anong kaya ng tao.
The product of the reaction to something you love.
And passion.
And anything in between.
It's the highest form of language.
So it's gotta be honest.
A vehicle for expressing your thoughts, your emotions.
That when we see it, we can't keep it, we need to share it.
It's not shared by 2 or more people, then it's just the work of a crazy person.
For me, art is important because
This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.